Hey guys, what is up? Welcome to today's video. Today we're going to be ranking all of the books that I read in the month of March. There are 9 books that I read in the month of March, which I feel like is pretty good for me. It was a great reading month. And yeah, so if you're excited, definitely give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to see more videos just like this. I think that I might have some new subscribers from my last TBR game video. So welcome if you're new. My name is Michelle and I like to read books and then talk about it on the internet. And that's really the whole gist of this. So let's go ahead and get started with ranking all of the books that I read in the month of March. Yes, because it's April now. Okay, so in the number 9 spot, this book was a rollover from February. I had read probably half of it before the month, so like keep that in mind when you're like, oh, you read 9 books. I read 8 kind of because 2 were half finished already, so you know, just keep that in mind. But the worst book that I read was The Bonds of Hercules by Jasmine Moss. I'm very sad that I didn't like this. It was just kind of all over the place, to be honest. The plot was like, there was too much going on and like it didn't make a lot of sense. There was spice, which there was a lot of talk of it. And then at the end, I thought it was fine. I'm not really like a spice girly, but then at the end when it actually happened, I was like, okay, cool. But then I was reading some comments of other people and they were like, for all the talk of all the things I'm gonna do to you, they really didn't do that much to her. And I was like, yeah, that's actually pretty accurate. It's pretty vanilla. So, I mean, who knows? But this just did not deliver. I loved the first book. I liked the first book. I think I gave it like 3.5 stars or something like that. I liked it enough to read the next one. This is a Why Choose. I just didn't like the plot was just not plotting. It was all over the place. The characters didn't seem like they were the same characters from the first book. I make notes of my reading in my reading journal. I don't like actually write reviews in here. I just write notes as I'm reading. I said, okay, the relationships in this one are odd. I'm thinking this is not going to be a story. This is a story more about obsession than love. They're like obsessed with her and not like actually in love with her. And they are like trying to convince her otherwise. Yeah, page 222. I'm realizing I don't care about these people at all, but want to know if this thing happens. I don't want to give a spoiler. Alexis is meant to be quirky, but I think she has actual mental illness. So that tells you how I felt about her. I don't know what else will, but yeah. So I just didn't think that this was very good, honestly. The first one was fun. This one was all over the place and confusing and like just felt like the author didn't know what to do next. So I was thinking about reading more books by this author because I did like the first one, but I think I'm gonna pass now because this is her more recent writing and I have to assume that the older writing is not gonna be as good as this. Not that this was good at all because it's stream of consciousness, annoying 19-year-old. So yeah, just pass. Just gonna pass on that one. I gave that like 1 star, like because you have to give them something, I think. It just wasn't good. It was probably the worst book. Well, We Who Will Die was also very bad. It's a tie between those two for the worst books. With actually this next one, Heated Rivalry is in the number 8 spot, and I gave this a 1/2 star because, so I think I rated it like 1.5 stars. The 1/2 star is for the awareness that hopefully like the phenomenon of heated rivalry actually brings to the LGBTQ plus community in professional sports. Like, I hope that it's like a stepping stone towards people being able to feel comfortable coming out as professional sports players in the media. Because that's like just not really like a thing. That I think there's like 1 out football player maybe, and the rest are, I mean, I don't know who's gay and who's not, but I hope that it like this frenzy around it gives those guys some confidence and makes them feel better if they're feeling the way that these guys were feeling in the book. My problem with the book is that it was almost everything. It was nothing but sex. It was literally just them doing it. So like every single chapter, there would be like a couple paragraphs of dialogue and like, oh, we're supposed to be enemies, but I want you. And then it was just explicit scenes. So I just didn't care for it. I'm not a big Spice girly. And I listened to this one on audio because I would have never read this book, to be honest, but it was my book club pick. So I, had to read it. I mean, I didn't have to read it. There's been book club books that I haven't done, but this one I was like, you know what? I'm interested. And yeah, I just listened to it on 3 times speed for those scenes. And so I literally listened to 75% of this book on 3 times speed. So it wasn't, there was no literary, like, anything to this book except, hopefully it brings, like, the phenomenon that is heated rivalry, brings more confidence and, makes a difference. That's all. Okay. Next, moving into 7. These are all books that I rated above 3 stars. Those were the 2 that were just not really for me. Sense and Sensibility by Jane Austen. I have it in this big thing right here. This is like the anthology of all Jane Austen's novels. I'm reading them one at a time. I did a lot of this on audio because this is just such a heavy book, and it's free on Audible if you have a subscription. So I did that, of course. This was fine. Honestly, the characters kind of annoyed me. I definitely like Pride and Prejudice a lot better than Sense and Sensibility. The characters were just like really naive and didn't, like, it was obvious what was happening with some of them, And then I was kind of upset at the end about how they were like cool with whatever happened at the end. Because I was like, I would not be cool with that, Miss, whatever your name was. I can't even remember. It seems like I didn't even read it. The only thing I wrote for this while I was reading it is, Willoughby is sus, pretty sure the oldest daughter and the colonel will get together. False. That did not happen. But Willoughby was quite sus. So, yeah, I didn't guess what was going to happen. I kind of thought like, I didn't watch the movie or anything like that. I looked at pictures of what actors played each thing. And so I was thinking the whole time that the oldest daughter and the colonel were gonna like get together because they were like friends, and it was gonna be like a friends to lovers type thing, but that's not what happened at all. So it was fine. The characters were just a little annoying and naive, and I mean, I guess women then were like that. So I just didn't like connect with the story at all, like Pride and Prejudice. I really love that story. So Sense and Sensibility was a no for me. I think I gave it like 3.5 stars or something like that, because it, like, the quality of the book was good. I just didn't connect with the characters personally. Okay, back to the ranking. That was number 7. Number 6, I believe I did, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. I think my disappointment with this was just that I was expecting a lot from it, because I really love The Hunger Games as a series. Like, I love that trilogy. I've read it several times throughout my life. And I never read this one, and I've never read the other one, which is down here. You can't see it, but the Sunrise on the Reaping. I definitely want to read that soon. It's on my yearly TBR. But this one I wanted to read first, so I read it in March. And, well, this was one of the ones that I was halfway done. So I read it halfway in March and halfway in February. But you can see the binding is also broken. But that was just from me literally reading it, not from me like mistreating it. Anyway, I just didn't think this was that good. Like, I think you're supposed to feel something for the main character, Snow, and like understand him a little bit better. And all I really understood was that he's just an awful person. So I mean, it more like increased my like hatred for Snow, which I guess did its job, if that's what the point was. But I don't know, it disappointed me a little bit. I really wanted more out of it, and I really want to watch the movie because I got my boyfriend to watch the Hunger Games movies and he really liked them, and I want to watch the new one and I want to watch this one, so I want to read the books first because that's who I am as a person. But yeah, I was disappointed. There wasn't enough like games and trials as I was hoping. I think my own expectations going into this were maybe not quite fair, but yeah, I mean, it wasn't a bad book. I think I gave it like 3.75 stars or something like that, or maybe even 4 stars fully. I can't quite remember, but yeah. I just was hoping for more of an arc for him than what I got. Like, there was no dramatic moment, I felt like, that made this happen. So, that made him be like that. He was always just selfish. So, anyway, not a huge fan of that one. But, I mean, it's a good book objectively, but it's less than what I was expecting. That's what I'll say. The 5th book that I'm ranking number 5 out of 9 is How to Kill a Witch by Zoe Venzadotti and Claire Mitchell. This is a nonfiction book about the witch trials in Scotland, which I felt was definitely a good book to read because here in the US, we really only know about the witch trials in Salem. And you think of the witch trials in Salem and are like, oh my God, that's so bad what happened to them. And so many people died. So many more died in Scotland and England. Oh my gosh. And France and like everywhere. They do touch on Salem in this. They touch on, I think, Norway. But yeah, it's a nonfiction book about like what happened to these people, what like kind of jobs there were around witch hunting, which I found was really interesting. How the church like controlled it, how King James kind of controlled the whole thing, and it was like an easy, convenient way for people to blame things that happened on them instead of they did something wrong to make, you know, God smite them. It was the witches did it. It's not me, you know? So it was very interesting, and I definitely didn't know a lot of the information in this. I like to read nonfiction to learn. I love history, so it was definitely a fun book to read. I mean, it wasn't fun because you're learning about people like literally being tortured and burned, but it also was like, oh, people weren't actually really burned at the stake that often. It was more like they were strangled and then their bodies were burned. So like that is depicted a little bit differently in media. But I thought this was good. It was a good, like, you know, women's history book, and it's kind of like they, at the end, they kind of took like the patriarchy, and it says the patriarchy's guide to silencing women. So this is like kind of a thing that we're kind of seeing right now in different parts of the world. And yeah, it was kind of relating it back to that, which was an interesting take. I don't necessarily agree with all of their analysis, but it was definitely like a good book to read in between some other fantasy books and kind of ground yourself back in what is actually going on in the world and like how history just seems to repeat itself. So there we go. Okay, the number 4 book. So these were like my favorite books of the month. Was Graceless Heart by Isabella Banez. I really liked this. I gave it 4 stars, I think. I think I gave it 4 stars. Let's see what I wrote about it because it's been a while since I read it. Let's see, where is it? Graceless Heart. So I love the world. It was set in Italy, which was really cool because I've never read a book set in Italy. And the focus on the romance was a little bit repetitive. It was kind of like the same things kept happening, and it didn't move the story along that much. So I was very like kind of shocked. I was like, this is the stupidest thing I've ever heard when you like realize what the twist was in this book. And then I was like, at the end, I was like, okay, fine. But when I read it, I was like incredulous. I was like, what? Excuse me? He's what? So I didn't quite understand that, but like I get it now. There is another one coming out, which I'm excited about. I think it's going to be a quartet. So like I will read it. Also, the beauty of this book is something else. Like the sprayed edges I could like really do without. I don't think they're anything that special, but the cover of this is so beautiful. And like the map on the inside, The actual book is really beautiful as well. Unfortunately, my copy did come damaged, so it has this like thing across it that was on it when I got it, but like it's okay. It's still a beautiful book. I'm excited to read more from this author. I do have the What the River Knows and Where the Library Hides right here, and I definitely want to read those pretty soon, because I did enjoy the writing and I did enjoy the like plot as a whole. I just like was kind of like, that was very stupid, but then by the end I was like, okay, like I get it, but it was stupid. So anyway, but it was good. So I don't know. The next book that I loved in the month of March and read, and the number 3 book that I read, was My Friends by Fredrik Backman. I have read now, I think 3. No, this was only my second. I've only read A Man Called Ove. And I liked that book. This one I really liked as well. It was long, but it was like over 400 pages, which I felt was like long, and I wasn't in the mood to read it when I picked it up. I was reading it because 1, it was on my TBR, and 2, because it fit a prompt. It was like the cover prompt for a buzzword. It was like movement on the cover, and so like that is like the perfect example of that, I think. So and I had wanted to read it for a while. I own it on my Kindle, and it was good. It was like I wasn't in the mood to read it, but then I found that I was like 100 pages in and was like, oh, okay, I guess I am in the mood to read this. You're always in the mood for Fredrik, I guess. Let's just relate back quickly. Sorry, there's something going on outside. Okay, it's gone. Sorry about that. But I was like on page 100 and was like, oh, I actually am in the mood to read this, because it's just so well written and like a good story, and I like how it was broken up. The pacing was really good of this one. But going back to Heated Rivalry, so because I listened to that one on audio, there was a man doing a Russian accent, and I felt like it was a lot older, like the accent sounded old, and I kept picturing Fredrik Backman, probably because I had just read a Fredrik Backman book. I'm sure that's why, but so that like took me out of Heated Rivalry a little bit as well, because picturing Fredrik Backman saying those things, I'm like, I don't know, it did not work for my brain. But this book was really good. I really wasn't in the mood to like read this, but I really enjoyed it anyway, and I'm glad I read it. It was a great story, and a found family and friendship and grief and loss, but also like finding something in that. So I really enjoyed it, and there was like a cyclical part to it that I also really enjoyed. So I would highly recommend My Friends. I think it's a great book. Okay, the number 2 book that I read out of 9 was Junie by Erin Crosby Eckstein. I have certain genres that I really like. Historical fiction is one of my favorite genres, but it's not something I will like gravitate towards. Like I always love when I read historical fiction, but I'm always going for like fantasy or science fiction first. I'm not sure why, because I just feel like those are easier to read, and like I just like want that kind of world. But this is a book about a woman named Junie. She's 16 years old, and she's in Alabama in 1860. She is a slave. This takes place right before the Civil War. So there's like a lot of tension and stuff around that. And it gave a different take than what I was expecting, because I was expecting more like The Confessions of Annie Langton, which was one of my favorite books that I read last year. That was brutal. That was like into a degree that I did not like think of, right? And this was more like of a family than a what you think of typically when you think of slavery. So this was like a story of the family who owned them, and then also this family as well. And it was actually a ghost story, which I did not know or expect at all. So I did like that part of it, because it added a little bit of like a quest element to it, because you had to do something. She was doing something for the ghost. And so it also was about grief and friendship and family, and I thought it was a really good book too. So yeah, I didn't really write a lot about this. I read it pretty quickly. I started on the 27th and finished it on the 31st. So I didn't write too much about it, but Yeah, I was surprised that there was a ghost story, but this basically tells the story between Junie and she's a maid for a woman around her own age, and that woman is getting married off, and it's like what happens when that happens. Like she has to leave her family and go with them. And so it's like her like trying to break up the marriage, but then there's also some deaths and a murder and her own love journey and relationships with her family, and how like people were like stuck in their ways. Even the slaves were like afraid to leave a good situation. So a good situation, you know. So I thought it was really like important story to read of like a slave, but it also was showing like the relationships that really were happening at that time. So I thought this was a great book, and it definitely was a quicker read because it was like a storyline that you wanted to follow, but also there was a lot of meaning in the story as well for that I think most people can relate to. So I thought this was really good. Now, my favorite book that I read was this one, The Serpent in the Wings of Night by Carissa Broadbent. I ate this I love fantasy. So it was like a typical romantasy, I'm not gonna lie. The romance was kind of, I like the romance. I'm not gonna lie, I was afraid there was gonna be something with the dad. So glad there was not. There was some spice, but not until about page 350, which I appreciate because I really just want plot from these books. Like the romance is the romance, and if it adds to the plot, which it definitely does in this, I am excited to read the next one because I'm like, what? I did not expect that to happen. And the actual like spice in here actually added to like the tension part of the relationship and like plays into things later. So yeah, I thought this was really good. I loved it. It's about this girl who is found by the Vampire King when she is, you know, preteen, 12, 9, something like that. And she is taken in by him and raised, and then she wants to become a vampire like him. So, but he won't do it because it's a very high fail rate. Like if you try to turn someone, most of the time they die. Sometimes that's how they're done, but they can be born and stuff in this world and that kind of thing. So she wants to enter this trial because then the god of the vampires, she could ask like, please make me a powerful vampire, and then she can figure out her past and like, you know, live in this world and not be afraid for her life every single day, because she is obviously food and prey to literally her whole family and court. So yeah, the characters are in here are pretty complex, and I really like the arc they're starting to take. I'm very excited to see what happens next. This is part of the Crowns of Nyaxia series, and I think it is based on their duets in different kingdoms. I think that's how it's going to be. So this is, she has to enter this trial to win, and it's kind of like a to the death kind of thing. You can withdraw if you're like very injured, like someone gets to withdraw, but most of the time they just die. And the ending I was not expecting, and it was very dramatic, and I'm really glad that I finally read this, and I'm excited to read the next one. So that was my favorite book that I read in the month of March. No 5 stars. I am very picky about the books I give 5 stars, so I liked this. There's something that was like holding back from the 5-star for me. But let's see what I read. Oh, I already read what I wrote. So yeah, it added to the romantic tension. It was a pretty normal romantasy to start. Like, okay, there's an enemy and there's someone who she needs help from, and so they're gonna team up together and they're gonna fall in love, blah, blah, blah. But it wasn't quite like that, which I appreciated. So that is all of the books that I read in the month of March. Let me know if you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to subscribe. Leave a comment down below. What did you read in March? What was your favorite read? What was your least favorite read? My favorite read was Serpent in the Wings of Night. Also, Junie was a very important read as well. And my least favorite read was Bonds of Hercules and Heated Rivalry. So let me know. I'm not really a romance girl, so I'm not like shocked that I didn't like it. I was surprised how much spice there was. It really wasn't anything but that. It was basically PORN. So, yeah. I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching. Bye.